You. Well, we've had an interesting 2 weeks out of this building, and sadly, my home state of Wisconsin made the news again in an effort to remove not just any person here illegally, but somebody who had broken the law, an abuser, somebody who under normal circumstances would not be viewed favorably. We had a judge in Wisconsin stop the hearing. Let's not worry about putting this guy in jail. Let's let him sneak out the back door so he is not removed from this country. This was after about a month ago, our governor, Tony Evers, nice guy, he came out with a directive implying that state employees ought not to be that gung-ho when it came from removing state employees from this country if they were here illegally.
In the ongoing debate over American immigration policy, emotions often run high, and facts are frequently clouded by political rhetoric. Immigration has long been a defining characteristic of the United States, a nation built by those seeking opportunity, freedom, and a better future. Yet alongside that rich history of legal immigration lies a consistent need for laws and systems to manage who comes into the country, under what conditions, and with what responsibilities. Today, however, the U.S. faces growing challenges, record levels of illegal border crossings, overwhelmed systems for housing and processing migrants, and rising tensions in communities struggling with the economic consequences of a sudden population surge. The stakes are not just about individual stories. They are about the integrity of the immigration system, the protection of American workers, and the preservation of the American dream for those who follow the law. Against this backdrop, Congressman from Wisconsin recently took to the floor of the House of Representatives to highlight specific events from his home state that he believes exemplify a larger national crisis. He described two particularly troubling incidents. First, a Wisconsin judge halted the removal of an undocumented immigrant who had committed serious crimes. Second, Wisconsin's Governor Tony Evers issued a directive that appeared to discourage aggressive cooperation with federal immigration enforcement among state employees.
So we have two examples in Wisconsin alone in which elected officials aren't on the page of addressing the immigration laws. So now, I think it's important that we all be articulate enough to explain to people back home why these immigration laws are necessary, and be articulate enough to explain we are not being mean to immigrants. I do not hear enough people talk about the fact that in the prior 3 years, and it goes up and down by year, but if you take a rolling average, in the last 3 years, we have over 800,000 people every year sworn in as new citizens legally in this country. How often do you hear about that? 850,000 people who did it right. So it's not impossible to make your way under here. And by the way, that is historically a very high number. If you go back to the 50s and 60s, frequently that number was only a little over 100,000. So the number of people keep being sworn as new citizens are already 8 times what they were in the 60s and 50s. Nobody should apologize or saying we're being mean or not letting people in here. What we are doing is, if we let these people who came here legally in, is we're kicking in the face anybody who did it right. We know we have a housing crisis in this country, and when you begin to flood this country with another 10 million people, as happened during the Biden administration, given the law of supply and demand, we know it's driving up rents, making it more difficult all the time for your average American to attain the American dream.
The congressman's concern is not limited to individual cases. He sees these actions as symbolic of a dangerous trend where political leaders prioritize short-term political gain or emotional appeals over the consistent application of immigration law. In his view, this undermines public trust in government and the fundamental principle that the United States is a nation of laws, not exceptions. In making his argument, the congressman went further. He passionately defended the nation's legal immigration system, pointing out that in recent years, over 800,000 individuals annually have been welcomed as American citizens through legal processes, one of the highest rates in American history. This, he argued, proves that America is far from being anti-immigrant. Rather, America is uniquely generous, but must demand that immigration occurs legally and orderly, both to preserve fairness and to protect national resources. The congressman also linked illegal immigration to broader societal issues, such as the housing crisis, arguing that flooding the country with millions of new residents without adequate infrastructure strains resources, drives up rent prices, and makes it harder for average Americans to achieve economic stability. Finally, shifting focus, he addressed another structural challenge: the way certain welfare policies unintentionally penalize marriage among low-income individuals. He pointed out that, under current systems, single parents risk losing tens of thousands of dollars in government assistance if they choose to marry. This, he argued, creates a government-driven incentive against marriage, which he believes is foundational to a stable society. As Congress prepares to work on what he called Donald Trump's Big Beautiful Bill major immigration reform legislation, he urged his colleagues not to pass new immigration measures without first addressing these internal economic injustices. Ultimately, the congressman's remarks present a vision of America where laws are respected, legal immigration is celebrated, illegal entry is deterred, and family structures are strengthened. His speech is a call to action for restoring order, fairness, and opportunity, not just in immigration policy, but across American social and economic life.
I should also point out that we have significant numbers of visas which allow people to come here as well. We have about 900,000 at any time, temporary workers or trainees. We have over 5 million, well over 5 million people here on visas for temporary visitors for business and pleasure. As far as college students are concerned, we allow another over 400,000 people in this country on student visas. It is incredibly easy to get in this country, or not always easy, but millions of people come into this country legally and are able to do so. We do not have to have sympathy for people who came here illegally. And I think it's important that we educate the American public on that, because soon we're going to have to start the next phase where we not only get rid of the criminal element that's came in here, but we have to begin to get rid of the 10,000 people or 10 million people who may have not broken a horrible law, but broke the law just by coming here. It is a complete kick in the teeth to anybody who wants to come here legally to allow Joe Biden's 10 million people who he let in the last 4 years stay here. One more thing I want to address. As we begin to work on Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill, I want to remind people in this chamber that right now we've got a system of benefits whereby if you are a single parent and you marry the father of your children or mother of your children, you can lose easily over $25,000 a year. In other words, the U.S. government spends $25,000 a year bribing single parents not to get married. I thought in this country we were supposed to treat people equally, but we don't treat people equally. We have an overwhelming bias in favor of keeping parents from being married. And I hope the people of this chamber remember that as we put together Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. We should not pass that bill unless we do something first about the massive marriage hatred that we have. Thank you.
The gentleman yields.